You done with this?
Yes. Why is this coming?
Yeah, the fiber speed is quite familiar with all the features.
What are you trying to do? Record this?
You have to have
Actually, I have, but I have Nikon, so I put it with Nikon.
I don't know why.
Get ready. What do you want?
Nothing. I just want to get rid of this symbol that is blinking.
Okay, this one. Yeah, but it's okay. It should not create trouble. So if it's not coming in the recording, then
It's coming.
it's coming in the recording.
Yeah. How does it
This camera is beautiful.
Just want to say Happy New
yeah,
Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Good. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, no, good to see you. Have I sent you that thing? These things not right. Let me send it to you. What's your email?
It's a VIRENDRA dot YADAV numeric 1 number 1 at Gmail.
Yadav, Maharashtra.
Not Maharashtra, Delhi.
Oh, Yadav. Okay. Yadav. Yadav. Okay.
Many people
Okay.
keep it as a
Just forget this picture. You have to. I'm sharing this with you. Okay. So you have to click on this. You don't have to nominate. This is where you have to click.
okay.
Pitching. If you click pitching, look here.
professors would be absolutely
Pitching, okay.
And then, yeah, you see this. So this is the pitching order,
Okay.
and that's what you have to announce at 7:30. That this guy Harrison Rose, co-founder and CEO of this company,
Okay.
and it's your turn.
Alright.
Please bring your laptop.
Alright.
And then when he brings, he is setting up. At that time, you have to ask audience, please vote for the previous one.
Okay.
Please send your scores for the previous one.
Alright.
And what is the score? These are the scores.
So this is shared with the audience, or?
Yeah, already shared with everyone. So we can even do one now. We have to ask everyone to nominate their favorite pitch participant.
Okay.
You can start now.
Yeah. Nominate favorite.
Participant
Uh-huh.
through this nominate form.
Okay.
Tell them if everyone has received an email. I just want to let you do it because you will just
Yeah, I got it.
So everyone has received an email with these buttons. You can show those buttons. The email. Yeah, just show them maybe this way. Like everyone has received an email with these buttons. Click on nominate to nominate a participant.
Okay.
And this is what you have to do. Say now. And after pitches, you have to ask them to do submit your scores for.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. You can do it now.
Yeah, we can make one announcement so that everyone does that.
Okay.
And just a casual announcement from here. Do you think you need space here? Or let me make little space.
That is okay. Hi everyone. Hello. Myself is Virendra, and today I'm one of the volunteers here. So we are planning to start now, and Hello. So I request everyone to take a seat, and then we can start. And one more request, I hope everyone has got this email, like this kind of button, so you can click on the nominate to nominate your speaker, and then from there we can take up the next. Right, thank you very much. I didn't know.
Get the PA system right.
Yeah, so I've added this slide back on the show.
You sure? Okay. Press enter.
This is small.
Yeah, because everybody read what I wrote, it gives them some background. I can do this faster. I don't have to get all the background to the slides. So just yeah, this says it. This says this is what's going on. So this is
Hi.
Hey,
Remember me?
good to hear. Event guy. There is one more event guy. He has also made something for the events.
Really? Which
Yeah.
one? Which person? Which one?
He is here. That guy.
The one in the back?
Yeah, he's eating. I'll introduce.
Oh, the one holding the plate?
Yeah.
Okay, I just talked
And
to him.
there are even few more I have met during events.
Okay.
there are around,
This line.
I would say, 10 people I have met.
Wow.
But in something or the other.
Okay. So we can chat about getting in touch with those people.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
do you have their email or anything? Like, do you have their email or?
Not email, but I can find out.
Okay.
Maybe I have, but
Okay.
yes.
Cool. So for today, I would like to give a pitch too, but I was busy with other stuff. I haven't even registered through the Google form.
Okay.
Is it possible for you just add me to the end of the pitch list?
Yeah, sure. First, others those who have applied, they will
Right.
get
Sure.
it.
I'm saying just put me at the end. So
Okay.
once all people who registered finish pitching, I can do the last one.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
Just put my name Alan there. So.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I have to.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
We'll talk. Yeah. Thank you.
Data center networks.
We are.
Yeah, trying to kind of like next generation.
Yeah, see, this marketplace is expanded much more.
Is it mostly hardware or software?
This one
Finding that the disconnect
Yeah.
between hardware and software
the size of this marketplace is
one of my tasks is to put everybody together in the same thing.
It's already larger
Really can't keep back in the days with no hardware and then gotta get do you use a software I think that's my premise. In fact, it says software is critical, but you have to have a player that runs that software. So by definition, because you really want software to find networking and it's going to 5G and super further software has to work together. And not only that, it becomes an ecosystem problem. So every component has to work together. So it's amazing how you think about it. As we demand more and more out of the system, the only way to solve that is the system is to solve provider also. A little bit of software is like networking.
Well, no, people get more.
Irony of it all. The difference is that we're not using fixed hardware. The hardware is actually programmable. That's yeah, you can't eliminate either. So
Tell me how it's
right there.
They know all
Yeah,
this.
we're trying to get figure all this out.
So, so you have to give them the data.
Okay.
Each judge has
You ever done it? Okay, what did they have to do?
Whoever looked like the person now. Basically, meant to solve or they have other use cases too. They might not use this. So actual location you'll have to oh, hi. Good to see you again. Sure, I'm gonna pitch today. Yeah.
Let's do it. Louder this time.
Okay, well.
Yeah, we can start. It's 7 o'clock.
3 more minutes. Yeah, almost. Yeah, it seems like the team already.
Yeah. So I will just thank everyone. Do 1
Yes.
minute here, and then I won't introduce.
But if you do that, who do that? I will introduction to companies.
The complete introduction.
No, the company introductions.
Company introductions.
So let's say, hey, XYZ, this company. You can call out the name of the founder.
Okay, I can do that.
No, is he going to do that?
He may. Okay, I can ask him. Yeah, sure.
So Anthony time too, right?
Yeah. So it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes for pitching and 5 minutes for judges.
I would say about 2 minutes to judges, no? Or was it 5 and 5?
5 and 5.
Okay, that's fine. No, I'm talking about you are to call out the names of the founders to finish, right? So one after another. Yeah. XYZ. Ready to go? Right, you have the name. Right. Hear it loud.
So you're fine, right? Sure. Thank you. Just thank everyone, and thank you everyone, and then introduce. Do you? How will you introduce? Do you have their names? No, these are. Go to the event page.
Obviously, GPS doesn't help.
No, actually,
Yeah, event.
The devices actually need to figure out how to take more.
Go down. Panelists. Little up. The panelists. You see panelists? Judges, panelists. That's it.
So panelist is the judges and panelists, but the people who are pitching is there, right?
No. We have panel first.
Okay.
Okay. 7 o'clock we have panel.
we have a very large.
Right now we have panel. We are starting with 7 o'clock right now. After panel, we have pitching.
Okay.
So, but introduction, let's make all the introductions at one go. So panelists, just say their names and that's it.
What is analogy I would use? So, say you wanted to warn somebody where And that person might be like, you can bring that to life. How do you coordinate to see as a computing device living things so it's almost like a network plugin before people see it. Walking down the street. And it's kind of the one that's sitting right here, turn this no, I don't need a picture of Mike, but the people who are giving a picture.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started. Please take a seat.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Virendra, and I'm one of the volunteers here, and you are all welcome in the evening. So I hope everyone has got the refreshment today. And yeah, so I would like to welcome our panelists here. So the first panelist is Pankaj Agrawal from Intel. Please welcome. Yep. And then Michael Nathan from 5G Open Innovation Labs. And the third panelist is Tom Hubbard, Principal Engineer, Intel. Please welcome. Thank you for coming over. And our fourth panelist is Mr. C. Prasanna Venkateshan. Please excuse me for no worries. The name incorrect. He is the Director of Digital Transformation Oracle. And our final panelist is Mr. Amir Khan, founder and partner, Mera Accelerators, and he's moderator.
I'm just going to stand up real fast.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. We welcome you here. For first-timers who haven't been here before, we are part of Mall Accelerator, which is a small organization which is starting February 3rd as Cohort 1 starts, which focuses on 5G technology and deep tech. So if you are working a product or service, which is in mobility, autonomy, robotics, and logistics tied to 5G or not, or because we see the value of 5G will be rolling out everywhere in every vertical in about next couple of years. So talk to us. We will be, our cohort 1 is all done, but next cohort, we would love to talk to you about it. And that being said, so thank you, panelists, for coming in. I will talk to you about a little bit about giving us a little bit of introduction, about 30 seconds about yourself. So, Pankaj.
I work for Intel. I'm a 5G ecosystem strategy manager. I work with the ecosystem, meaning AT&T, T-Mobile, Microsoft, Red Hat, VMware, on the software side of things, enabling their 5G solutions and trying to sell more chips as we go along.
Yes. Michael.
Great, so background in high tech, Microsoft, Cisco, Apple, HP, and the last 4 years in VC, so Sierra Ventures, IBM Capital, IBM Ventures, that had a derivative, and then a small seed stage, 5G open innovation.
Tom Herbert. I have background in engineering, software development for the most part. Right now I am at Intel, principal engineer working on data center networking. I'm also a founder of a startup called Autonomy, which is looking into mobility infrastructure.
Prasanna Venkateshan, you just go with press for sure. I'm from Oracle. I'm part of our industry solutions team. So we work at the intersection of these transformational technologies like IoT, 5G, ML, AI, and how can we actually make that more relevant to people who are running more business applications like ERP databases and CRM and other types of
software and make those even more powerful. So that's my background. Background in Cisco as well for several years, and in management consulting, like many others.
That's the way to start. Well, thank you for coming. And so I keep seeing 5G word being thrown around everywhere. What is 5G? Please.
Come on, strategy guy.
The 5G for a layman is ultra low latency and a lot of bandwidth data into play. That basically means not swiping your credit card, but that basically means operating at a surgery level, breaking your car. That's ultra low latency as we define 5G. And it's a lot of data at play, terabytes of data. That's 5G in layman terms.
So 5G, so thank you. 5G for me, let's just go back. Remember 3G was text messaging. 4G was video enablement. 5G is machine to machine. So you can go IoT sensor to a computer, have a desired outcome, and have a directive back, minimizing the interruptions of a human. It's good or bad, I'm not picking a side, but that's what 5G is for us. How do you automate the process?
Any like that?
I would just say, I mean, it's much more than just speeds and speeds. The way that the network itself is architected on a core level is going to be very different from what 4G or LTE and other networks are doing. So that's going to open up a lot of different ways in which telecom companies can actually operate their business much more efficiently. That's something I think you're going to find out as workloads start coming on. It's going to be much more than just, hey, can I download my movie in 10 seconds instead of 2 minutes?
Well, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I would agree with that, but one of the obvious things is that it has been a promise for a while. So, and like any other new technology, it's very forward-looking, so it will take longer to really materialize than what people initially hoped for. But I do believe it is, at least by definition, a leap forward, and it gets us into some interesting possibilities. So I think before there were robotics and autonomy, these are very different things. And smart cities are often associated with this. The ability to actually do what I think are critical applications on the internet. So downloading a movie is great. That's great technology. But the ability to get real-time data from an IoT device or robotics, sometimes critical, life-saving. If we have that reliability, the low latency, the high bandwidth, the guarantees, then we're going to see a whole new class of applications that really benefit people, and we expect to see a whole new class of applications kind of emerge from this.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with everyone here. So let's talk about a little bit of the use cases, right? So are we seeing more of a consumer play in 5G, where our phones are going to be faster, and come back to movie download or video telecommunications is going to be really faster, or is it more of an enterprise play to begin with?
Personally, I believe enterprise will adopt first. The reason is, for you and I, as a consumer, to appreciate 5G, the devices we use needed 5G radio. So you need to upgrade your hardware, and that's going to take a lot of time. More importantly, the towers need to be built. The devices, the low micro cells need to be deployed. People need to be trained on how to do that. That's a 3 to 5 year process. Probably conservative, right? I mean, no, that's.
I mean, I would agree with that. The infrastructure is not ready yet. And to your point, it's an enterprise play to begin with. And the willingness to pay comes from enterprises more than consumers. Normal consumer like you and me are happy with 4G actually. We don't really, I mean, we're not going to pay for downloading a movie faster right now. But enterprises are going to pay for it. And that's where the money comes in. And that's where, that's the enterprise will accelerate the 5G deployments, not the consumers.
So, I agree, but correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the earlier use cases of adoption for 5G seems to be high density areas as opposed to a broader adoption. So we're finding, I'm not an expert in the radio signals, but that high density is getting us a much higher number of connections, number of users in a small area. So, and that kind of fits in with the enterprise model of very compact kind of high density use cases. So I would expect that some of the lower smaller regions would be adopting this first. The open question still, and I think you kind of alluded to this, is what are the applications that are driving this? I'm happy with 4G too. And amazing, I can walk down the street watching a video. How is that going to be better in 5G? It's got to be more than that. And it's got to be, what is the next level of applications that we're going to use?
Mostly I would agree. Definitely if you go to Levi Stadium, for example, today and you try to use your cell phone, I think bet that it's not going to be a very pleasant experience over there. There have been some patchwork solutions. Let's offload the Wi-Fi and try to get you on a different type of network and so on and so forth. So if I'm a betting man, you would see a ton of cell phone infrastructure for 5G around Levi Stadium and other AT&T Park and the Coliseum, etc. before you see it in your own neighborhood. So that would be one for sure. The other one is obviously when you look at applications, it's definitely on the enterprise side. I'm here from Oracle. We have a ton of communications CSPs, communication service providers as our customers. We're building SaaS infrastructure for them so that they can kind of pay as you go for much of the core network capabilities that we provide. But that apart from an enterprise play that is there. But when you look at how IoT and other sensors are architected today, you have the sensor, you have the edge, then you have the cloud, and then you have the analytics and the applications that run on it. And with much lower latency for some of these applications, especially when you think of mobility and autonomy, mobile autonomy with the Waymos of the world, then you're going to find that that architecture itself is going to change. So you're not going to be going step by step by step. Can I actually do things in the cloud directly now that because of these low latency requirements, I don't have to depend on my edge. So you're going to see new ways in which people are going to be able to use it and bring much more horsepower to the equation.
The use cases and the enterprise side of it as well.
Amazing. Let's talk about a little bit of 5G readiness. Where are we right now? Which region of the world, so North America, Asia Pacific, or Middle East, Africa, or South America, who's leading the way? You can name a couple. Most likely everyone knows who's leading the way, but please name a few of the key players in the market and which geographically where are they located? Where are we going to see the progress?
So from where we see, I think South Korea, APAC is obviously a leader in adoption because there are less regulations. A lot of things are open source. So the rate of adoption is very high there. The density problem that we talked about is much bigger in APAC region. So from that region point of view, it's way there. If you look at Gartner's report that came out a couple of months back, 5G is at the peak of hyperbole right now in terms of a lot of people are saying we are 5G ready, but devices are not there, the applications are not there. So it's coming. I think it's still 2 to 4 years before we can see, or 3 to 5 rather, where we will see actually 5G working in our cities, in our regions. But APAC is the leader, followed by Europe, and then North America, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, I agree. Part of it again is density, size, population, location. For 5G, you need a lot of microcells. You need 3 to 5 times what we have for 4G. So that reason alone, where high density populations are, is one of the main reasons why adoption will take place.
So I would agree, but let me maybe comment on where the infrastructure is taking place. So when we talk about latency in 5G, this is really interesting. So one of the early promises of 5G was 1 millisecond latency for applications. And okay, on paper that's great, but let's think about that for a second. Speed of light by itself demands that your application has to run to a server like within 70 miles. So by that definition, you can't even go to the cloud. So one of the things that we have to see for 5G in order to really see the benefits materialize is what we call edge computing, moving the services closer to the user. And regardless of anything, the one thing we have to remember, even with 5G, our ability to collect data, especially with cameras and devices that do very multidimensional data acquisition, still far exceeds any of the bandwidths that even 5G offers. So in parallel to 5G, what we are seeing is a lot of effort in edge computing to move the cloud basically closer to the user so that we get that latency proximity down. The other advancements that have to take place really are in lines with computer vision, AI, and machine learning. How do we actually manage this data? Because again, a full frame video HD is enormous bandwidth, and if we're monitoring, say, 30 or 40 intersections with video cameras over 5G, that's still going to be considerable bandwidth. So there's a lot of intelligence, even with 5G, that we still need to flesh out to make it useful. One thing I've learned over the years, data does not like to move. And that's why we, like I said, in parallel with 5G, there's also this element of processing outside of the cloud. Good news about that is there's huge amounts of opportunity. And edge computing and things like that run hand in hand with this. And all of these deployments, I assume, are, in order to get full value, are actually pushing them. Again, it's not just a matter of getting better movie download. We already have that.
I don't know what you guys are talking about because my AT&T phone already says I'm on 5GE, so we're here. But from remarks aside, I think definitely Asia is going to lead. But sorry to disappoint everybody here. I think the US is definitely going to be a laggard here. And the reason for that, I think, is not because of we lack the will, but because of the way the laws are. You are, by definition, you're going to need a lot of infrastructure hung on all kinds of different poles over here. And the people who own those poles today are electric utilities for the most part. And they're not going to let you hang infrastructure without extracting their pound of flesh, or they might want to even get in on the game themselves. In fact, when I was in consulting before, that was one of the proposals that I made, that this is going to be there. Why don't you run fiber directly over all your poles? But that didn't get implemented for different reasons. But that's going to be part of the challenge. I think this is going to be a much slower rollout, at least in the United States, than what other countries are going to see.
Yeah, that was actually a major problem with Google Fiber.
I am sure. I mean, I didn't want to bring up the name of Google
Well,
Fiber
but
because I'm
so
sure
obvious,
there are some
and
people over here. But
finding out how to deal with all these municipalities and utilities,
and then everybody just
logistics are a nightmare.
Yeah, they just threw up their hands and said, "What is it, Kansas City now?"
So
you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think you touched upon two different use cases. Real-time video surveillance is, in Nevada, city of Las Vegas, you have all these video surveillance that's happening. That's a bandwidth issue. The other use case you touched upon is when you drive a car, when you need to brake or decide when to brake, that cannot go to cloud and come back. It has to be on the edge. Now, what an edge is controlled by the cities, and that leads to smart cities. So we are nowhere near close to smart cities readiness. The infrastructure that needs to be ready with the cities to enable the autonomous vehicles is very, very slow. It's not enough to just equip your car with a software or with sensors or LiDARs and whatnot. It's also important to make sure the road, the traffic lights, everything is sensor ready and sensor adaptable as well. So that's going to take a lot of time, given the speed we have with regulations and how things move in the US.
Yeah, there's going to be huge fights on spectrum as well, right? You're going to need all kinds of spectrum allocation. I mean, you're not seeing half the funding.
But it's coming. It's not a fact. It's coming. It's going to come. It's going to be slower, but it's going to come. So that's the best part about it. So there's a lot of opportunities to do.
So latency, that sort of latency is way in the future in order to materialize it. However, there is one use case of latency which is quite public. You know what it is?
The surgical operations running, or the industrial robotics running.
I think you're guessing. Gaming. So what we are finding is that these kids playing, I don't know what, World of Warcraft or Minecraft, whatever the latest game is, it's online gaming. What we're finding is if they can get lower latency as a strategic advantage, the games are free, many of them will pay for lower latency. So that'll be opportunities. So if you want to know where the internet is going, watch gaming.
We know on that one. We'll talk about a little bit, that kind of use case. What sectors do you think? I know we talked about a little bit enterprises, broad sectors. Where are we seeing divided versus autonomous cars or smart cities? So what do you think are top three that we will see as the early leaders in the implementation of 5G?
The fastest would be industrial, because it's more of a like a private LTE, and they are more inclined to pay for it, and they don't have to go through they don't need much of a enabling. So industrial sector would be the first one, I think, and the fastest where they can deploy 5G easily. Autonomous cars would be the slowest and the slowest of all, because of all the requirements around what's needed. There are a lot of use cases in CDN, which is like your videos and how do you deploy or even provide real-time stadium like experiences. They would be next, I think. They could be faster as well. But yeah, I mean, both ends of the spectrum, it will be the fastest. Autonomous will be the slowest.
I look at, remember when India was about to roll out copper lines for telephony, and then they leapfrogged that to wireless. That, I look at industries that could potentially be similar: agriculture, major manufacturing, oil and gas. These are industries where IoT, without the necessity of power, could leverage the speed and low latency of 5G, have machine-to-machine connectivity, and actually deliver results. So I think agriculture and oil and gas would be the top two for me in that regard. They're ripe for disruption. They haven't been disrupted in decades, and why not now?
So I would agree.
I'm not pitching for them. I'm just saying.
Well, so I was at a startup event once, and there was a high school kid who was producing this little thing that looked like a carrot, and they would drop this into fields from a helicopter, and it would sink into the ground and measure the moisture, and then relay that back to the cloud. That's so cool. Whether or not that needs the bandwidth of 5G or the latency is questionable, but definitely IoT has a lot of promise. Clearly, robotics has to be listed in that. Unlike that case, robotics has multi-dimensional sensors, video, LiDAR, radar, things like that. We can imagine applications in mining, oil industry, a lot of remote control devices. And again, as things become more critical, the network and the communications become more critical. So that's probably where we'll see it start. I would say in the public sector, I do believe gaming would actually be pretty high on that list. AR, VR, these are things that have a lot of promise. I'm sure there's safety applications of AR. You can imagine a firefighter wearing a VR mask entering a building with smoke. If we have 5G providing the layout of that building in real time, it better be accurate and better be reliable. That's where all the promise, and I think that gets into the smart cities. So you probably see applications like that. But I agree, the autonomous vehicles, infotainment would be a reality. But getting that real-time safety information where the internet becomes critical to real-time operations, it will come. But yeah, that's still many years off.
Pretty much I would agree with a lot of the things that have been said. Frankly, nobody's going to put the control system of an autonomous car on a network that is off-board from the vehicle, because there's just way too much liability in doing something like that. Even vehicle to infrastructure, or there are tons of startups which are like Coda Wireless and others which have been talking about vehicle to vehicle infrastructure type communications. The Cadillac CTS was, I think, one of the first cars to actually have that, but unfortunately the infrastructure itself was missing because when the administration changed, a lot of those regulations got rolled back. So that's not something that we're going to see. Definitely agree with Dr. over there. But the reason why I think IoT, agriculture, all these use cases are going to become more prevalent with 5G is not because they use a lot of data. In fact, the amount of data that they use is minuscule. It's literally kilobytes, not even megabytes kind of range. And their latency is also you can work with. I mean, I don't care whether my avocado tree is telling me what the humidity and moisture is today, or whether it's telling it another 8 hours from now, right? But the reason you want to do that is because a lot of the network slicing that's going to occur now with 5G was not possible with 4G. In fact, Sprint built out an entirely separate IoT network because they could not manage these millions of IoT devices on the same network that consumer devices have. Because consumer devices, you have redundant capabilities. Hey, if my voice call is going to break up, and I'm not going to tolerate something like that, and I'm going to switch providers. And all these IoT devices will coming in, and the expense of running that network became very much. So they built a separate network because the ROI on that was much better. But with 5G now, you can actually slice out the network and run different slices for different applications. So you can run extremely low latency applications for infotainment, for example, and you can run high latency best effort spaces for the tweaking of your mango tree or something like that in India, right? So you can do different things now on the same infrastructure, which is why everybody is really getting more and more excited about the applications. So pretty much it's going to be one network to handle everything.
Network slicing is a very important part of the architecture that's going to take place. In your house, your laptop and your mobile phone has a different data requirement than your fridge or your light bulb. So that's what is an example of how different devices in your own home require different data bandwidth and latency. Same on the oil and gas. Just want to touch upon one more thing. The deep pockets also drive not just the technology, but the money also drives the adoption of the technology. In oil and gas, there's the safety requirement, and a fire can put a rig out for 6 months. That is very critical, and that's why there's a lot of money involved there. And drones and everything, where it comes to machine communication, is even much more critical. So oil and gas, just because there's even agriculture for that matter. Actually, if you think about it, U.S. economy, agriculture subsidies are very high. So you think about it, there's a lot of money involved there, and that's why for that reason, not because they want data, not because there's a requirement of milliseconds, but it's more of on the business side that will drive the adoption of those technologies.
One of the industries government we didn't talk about, and I don't know how you consider that as a vertical, but when you mentioned fire hazard, fire safety, think about the military that's out in the field during the war. Data, real-time, low latency, zero shot. So,
Thank you. And so we have a last question that we're talking about. The closing comment is in 5G, we anticipate to see terabytes of data transfer that will happen, right? So let's talk about battery life. How does the battery life? My phone cannot last more than 12 hours, even less on certain times. So when terabytes of data transfer is happening, the process is overloaded. How does the 5G implications or application of the cellular network would reduce? I keep hearing it, the battery life would extend. Please elaborate on that. How does that work?
I'll let you start.
I mean, one thing I would just say is just the power requirements for your radios is going to be a lot lower if your base stations are much closer together. That could be one potential way in which you could potentially have better battery life, I would imagine, instead of communicating with a cell tower, which is the power requirements for getting to and from a cell tower, which is miles away, is obviously much more. So that could be potentially one thing, but I'm certainly not an expert on battery life when it comes to radio access networks and such.
I'll tell you from my perspective, I'm sorry if I jumped ahead of you, but I mentioned oil and gas and agriculture as two examples. Oil and gas, to your point, very low power consumption requirements on IoT. And again, it depends on where those hops are, but you could potentially have an IoT device that's battery powered up to a decade or more with no power running to it. So imagine about industries that are ripe for disruption, where something like that, where you don't have to run a physical power line, what it could do. So,
yeah, water meters, for example. If you walk through the city of San Francisco, you would sometimes find on a light bulb, just look for it, a base station with the word Aclara on it. They operate an extremely low power network, which is transmitting data from your water meter. In fact, we just built a new house in India, and that has a wireless water meter right now. So it's like become so cheap now, and it's like for 20 years you don't have to touch the battery, because all that it's doing is same thing for your gas meter, your PG&E gas meter as well. That's got a battery built in. I'll bet that's not going to be touched for 20 years. So it all depends on how much throughput, how much data, when you're sending that data. I mean, I don't see my gas meter reads for like 3 days at a time, right? They just don't care. Whereas your electricity meter is sending 15 minute reads because it's got power on all the
You'll see in some of the newer cars when you're at a stoplight, it literally shuts down. And when you're about to let off the brake, it starts up again. They're starting to understand, they meaning big corporations, are starting to understand that you can literally extend the life of a battery by powering down not all functionality, but core functionality, and then bringing it back up.
So that's definitely critical in smartphones, to the extent that we're now putting in chips just to handle certain traffic and decide, is this important enough to wake up the whole phone, or can I just discard it? So it turns out that, so one, battery life and power in general is like the number one problem across the whole computing industry. In the data center, for instance, the largest outlay is power, energy cost. Smartphones, we obviously have a problem, so batteries improve, so we like that. But still, it's kind of a full ecosystem problem. How do you get the most out of the battery life? How do you, if we can power it down when we're not using this, or go to a lower power consumption mode? These are all techniques that we have to use. What this means is that there's a lot of software, because that's usually what drives us, a lot of software to build around these techniques. And I think that's one important thing to remember about 5G. It's not only hardware, it's a lot of software to make all this happen and to optimize this. They kind of go hand in hand, to the extent that they're almost inseparable. You probably heard of software-defined networking. I think a lot of this plays out in 5G to become the first truly software-defined network. And slicing is exactly a great example of that. That's really not a hardware thing as much as it's a software or an abstraction that software can use to provide services. And the nice thing about slicing, I would mention, is that that's really the monetization opportunity that the telcos see. If they can sell services and differentiation to customers, that's a benefit. Now, the one thing we probably won't mention is net neutrality, which comes into play. But I think, well, obviously, current administration is not an issue, but that will eventually come back. We can work that out.
Actually, I want to add something to just on what Tom said. And the way that you're actually doing all of this in software, it's actually very optimistic, because when you look at the spread of botnets and all that, everybody's saying, oh, with 5G you're going to open yourself up to more attacks and so on, DDoS and so on and so forth. I don't believe that's going to be the case, because if you're slicing different parts of the network, which means that all of your IoT devices can be put on a different slice, you only have to shut down that particular slice if you feel that there is an attack that you need to take care of, which means the rest of the network can still be alive and exist. And because of all the slicing and the way that it's all going to be handled in software, I believe for cybersecurity that is a plus. And we're going to see less of these type of events, hopefully, fingers crossed, compared to what we've seen in the past.
Did you think about optimistic?
I'm optimistic, yes, it's going to be less.
I'll build upon the optimistic piece. I think we are still a lot far away from building that capability. Tunneling and the network slicing, there's a lot of opportunities there that needs to be built. Security is becoming more and more important, because the way to attack a home could be through a different tunnel. But there's again a opportunity to secure that as well. But we are, I would say, not anywhere close to securing the whole network right now. But again, that's the area of innovation that will happen.
Hopefully, there's putting some ideas over there for
Yeah,
our accelerator, right?
For the young entrepreneurs here, please.
Same thing with the battery life. I think the mobile phone is one great example of how data could be processed. Just to give you an example, the car drives down the road, collects up to 5 terabytes of data every day, just on the images that it sees, and then translates it. That terabytes of data processing takes a lot of power. Now, other than the mobile phone and the devices that are processing the data, yeah, sure, IoT devices, they don't need that kind of power or data processing, but other use cases, they do need that kind of data processing, so power is going to be critical. It was said if everybody has an electric car in US, the network will shut down because the infrastructure does not have the capability of charging every household electric car. Same is said of 5G. Everybody has a 5G device. The power that they will be using eventually with their phones, the infrastructure is not ready yet to supply that kind of power. So it's a long road, but network slicing and tunneling and software innovations will help solve the problem. It's not going to be a hardware problem to solve, it's going to be a software problem to solve.
Are there any questions on network slicing? Like, is everyone clear on what exactly that is? Because how it was explained a long time ago was if you look at power, hospitals run a different grid than residents. Power goes out, the hospital stays online. Network slicing is your dedicated piece of it. So think about in-car entertainment. Companies like Apple, as an example, what's important for them? For me, it's the pass back of the device for the kids, and they're either watching streaming or music. And that piece of the network is dedicated to one. There's harmony.
I used to live next to a data center before I moved to my newest place. In 5 years that I lived there, I lost power once, and they informed us a week in advance.
Right.
Like, we're going to shut down your power.
Right.
It's
California.
amazing.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you coming in and giving some knowledge to our new entrepreneurs. So with that being said, I think we're going to move towards some pitches tonight.
Judges?
Well, before we go, we got to take the first selfie of the calendar year, and decade. All right, so
Right.
guys.
I think I told you to take selfies.
All right. We got it. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Right, you're in there.
All right, thank you for coming, guys.
Thank you.
So next we have the pitches. Right. So, thank you everyone for. Okay, thanks for the panelists, and what I can understand for the whole discussion as a layman term that in coming time we are going to pay more for the your handheld devices and the network. For now it is iPhone 11 going, so we can expect in 11 iPhone 12 or 13. 5G is compatible with 11, right? Yeah. Okay. So all right. So. Thanks for the discussion, and then we have the pitches now. So our first pitch is for Albert and founder.
Introduce
Judges. Okay, so to introduce the judges today is Amir Khan, founder and managing director of Mark Escalators. Welcome. And our second judge is Prakash Goswami, managing partner, Mark Escalators. Welcome. Tasneem Manjara.
She's there.
All right,
She's there.
all right. And Frank Abdullah, angel investor.
Farooq Abdullah.
Welcome, Farooq. Sorry about that. Okay, so we can go to pitches. All right. So now on the pitches side, we have Mr. Albert, founder, Stealth Mode. Sorry for that. Mr. Albert.
Albert? No. Harrison.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was on the different. Sorry for that. Harrison Rose, co-founder. Techcode Robotics.
Yes.
Welcome.
Close that.
Mihai Budai.
Behind.
Well, thank you very much to the host, to our judges, and to the audience and the other competitors. I'm grateful to be here, and I am presenting the future of robots. What we're seeing is an evolution in the marketplace. And I'm going to show that to you very quickly because the market is now growing exponentially. And what we're trying to do is show what the next step in the evolution of the service robot sector of the robot industry is going to be, and how important it is to daily life and the marketplaces and investment opportunities that exist. We call the next generation of service robot the commercial personal robot, or CPR, and we're developing the CPR platform along with our own version of the CPR, which we brand name as Tracy. Now, what the CPR is compared to a standard service robot is a robot that you can download new applications into because it's built on a standardized structure in a strategy that is similar to what Google did with Android for the smartphone market. Imagine 7 years from now, or actually 5 years from now, but 7 years from 2018, according to Tractica Market Research, less than a quarter of the market, the total revenues in the robot industry, which was $52.7 billion in 2018, less than a quarter of that was industrial robots. By the time we get to 2025, which is only 5 years from now, we're going to see that marketplace grow 10 times from 52.7 to $500 billion on an annualized revenue for the total robot marketplace. But that growth is not in industrial robots. The industrial robot market is a mature, well-entrenched marketplace that's growing at a good clip of about 7% compounded per year. So by the time we get to 2025 and we get a $500 billion marketplace, we're going to see only about 6% of this is going to be industrial. And all the rest of that is going to be in autonomous vehicles, drones, all forms of service robots, the robots that are used for surgery, and vacuums. This is Tractica Market Research. And this is the projection that they show. The blue at the bottom is industrial robots. The red is the non-industrial robots. The triangle that you see is what happens when we add our platform to the mix. Because currently there are no platforms for service robots. There are half a dozen or so to a dozen companies that have APIs or an SDK for their unique robot. But they are financially architected like Apple is. And from that perspective, you're going to see that history does not go well for companies that are both hardware and software, as they have to then create the return on investment necessary for their hardware development. But when we add the economic network effect that a software platform enables, what we end up getting is an introduction from the CPR Tracy launch. We're going to have a CPR App Store. We're going to have mass market versions of these robots enabled by OEMs, because now an OEM will be able to combine a large collection of vertical niches into a business case to be able to say, I can now produce a product that's a mass market product, which uses my manufacturing, engineering, and market capabilities, as opposed to the tens of thousands of robots that are currently on the market, in the service marketplace. And then to talk, another important aspect of it is that our architecture enables the plug-and-play hardware accessories, which is another important aspect of the future of flexibility and modularity in service robots. But with the discussion of 5G, I wanted to add a specific inference, because another aspect of this marketplace is that the 5G is looking for edge computing, and service robots, if they're built in a modular way, such as the CPR, can allow the telecommunications segment to allow a CPR to become an edge computing device for a larger number of robots around it or other devices as needed. We've had some discussions with Cisco about this particular application. So to give you some history, this is the history of the smartphone as the operations, as the application of the iOS and the different form of platforms took place. The blue is Apple, iOS. They are a distinct market. They have managed to maintain a premium marketplace for their technology. You can see the rest of this has essentially disappeared, where all of it is replaced by Google. Last year, Google was shown to have 88% of all new smartphones shipped. What we're planning on doing is what we call the CPR platform. The CPR platform is based upon the CPR OS, which is built into the robots. It allows for the CPR app stores. It allows for third-party app services and components to be pushed down into the robot for people who have better capabilities than what comes with the standard robot. And an example of that is facial recognition. Facial recognition is built into the OS. But if you want facial recognition that is able to determine emotion or truthfulness, that's a special capability that you could also download from a software developer who's got that, and they're already on the market to be able to download that into the application. Then we've got TPR cloud surfaces such as in video conferencing, video and telepresence. And then it's connected to third parties such as IBM Watson. Many companies are have been looking on how to get into the robot industry all this time, but they haven't been able to make the business case for it. And that's what this is going to show. And so we've been in talks with some of these companies already. And they're waiting for us to give them the demonstration robot that they can test. These are some of the marketplaces for service robots today. They have smart cities, telepresence, customer service, medical facilities, retail logistics, security patrol, hospitality. And of course, once you've got a large enough installed base, then the economic network effect comes into play, and more things come into being that we can't even imagine today. For example, there's over 1.2 million applications on the Google Play Store. I dare anybody to be able to name what they are. So if we look at why we did this, it's because if you abstract out all the commonality across all these service robots, you'll see that anywhere between 80 and 90% of those robots are essentially the same technology, just different implementations of the technology. The difference is the software that lands on top of it. So if you architect out in order to create an operating system type of approach to allow applications to be able to be developed, then we have the capability of third-party applications. And these are some of the major markets, but these are only a small handful of them. And you'll see that what we've got is a commonality of the robot capabilities, and we have, of course, future CPR applications that we can't even imagine. And that's going to make an enormous market. Now, I'm going to talk about this very briefly, and I can get into it in more detail, but what's important to understand is that we're a completely modular system in both hardware and software that is also secure from the ground up. I'm sure most of you may not know this, but almost all service robots in the market today have a terrible security hole in them, especially if they're built on ROS. You can go online and do a search on the ROS port, and you can take over a robot, including a robot that is meant to be a security patrol robot, and literally take it over and download your own application into it and run it from afar. We are solving that problem from the ground up.
Quick, 30, I think time's up. Maybe 30 seconds to wrap it up.
Oh, I didn't know where my clock was.
I just
Oh, okay. So let me just go quickly. This is Tracy, and it's with a plug-and-play accessory. We call it an ACU. We have support for the for our stakeholders, which I can get into some detail with you. The business model is similar to Google's, but in fact, an application that's going to run on a CPR, it's not going to be a $3 application. It's going to be a multiple $1,000 application. And so when we take 30% of the revenue from an application, say a receptionist application, so instead of buying a $15,000 robot, you buy a $5,000 robot and a $5,000 application. And we take a piece of all of it. We take a piece of every robot that's built on the platform because of our service structure. Over time, this is the expected growth of the revenue streams in the marketplace. There are primary 5 different revenue streams, and eventually the CPR App Store is going to become by far the most valuable. Because 30% of multiple $1,000 applications that are selling in the hundreds of thousands to millions of units becomes a multi-billion-dollar marketplace all by itself. Our team is world-class technologists, and I can go into the deep background behind some of that, along with world-class business development. I come from AT&T Labs. I've worked for Apple and Sony Electronics. And I was actually in charge of building the third-party developer program for the Common Open IP platform, which some of you know is really the first cloud. And so it was my responsibility for recruiting all the companies to play nicely on top of this platform that AT&T was using as their big rollout for taking the voice over IP and extrapolating that into the next generation. This was in the year 2000. We're raising $5 million.
10 minutes.
And the use of funds is obvious. So thank you. My name's Harrison Rose, and I'm happy to take your questions, if I have time.
We can take offline. Questions we can take offline.
Okay, I can take offline.
Is there any question?
Or
Maybe quick question.
Yes.
Just comment. So I think how hard ready or software ready are you at this point?
Our hardware is in beta right now, or ready to go into beta for production. What you saw was a CAD drawing, a demonstration. Our software, we've developed many of the components, and now we're structuralizing it into the modular process to become the CPR OS. How we are doing that is part of our secret sauce, and our intellectual property has been maintained as trade secret because we've been doing this over the last 5 years. And so until we were ready and be able to spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars we're going to need for an patent fence across the international boundaries, we kept a very strict trade secret environment. Yes.
First of all, great presentation. Thank you. Do you have a sense of, when you talked about a lot of different verticals, is there certain verticals or certain companies you want to focus on to test and iterate on the OS, or is that still open in terms of?
Well, the lowest hanging fruit is telepresence robots. Due to my relationships with AT&T, I had a conversation with the head of the AT&T Global Services Group, and they had tried to bring in the suitable technologies being robots into their product portfolio to sell to the Fortune 100 accounts. After a year, they sold 0. And what they did was they went back and they asked the management of the customers why nobody wanted to buy these when the ROI is so obvious. You can make an ROI on a $15,000 telepresence robot in a matter of months by replacement of teletravel. Well, it turns out it has to do with the fact that they're not secure. And they are closed systems. So when we told him what we were doing, it was like, oh my God, this is the answer to all the questions that they were having. Now until we, of course, actually have it on the market, there's a question. China Unicom told me the same thing. They would like to have a low-cost telepresence robot that integrates with the enterprise marketplace to become the next major office machine, just like the fax machine of the 70s. But we're also looking at some very specific products right now. We have a project which is in vertical farming. So we're talking with pilots. We've got a couple of pilot projects that are under bid. We've been brought in as the technology underlying all the robotic side of it. And once those robots are created, then they become available to be as a CPR and can add value on the fly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for
Next.
thank you for the presentation. And we have a rule here. I forgot to announce it in the beginning. For the speakers, we have 5 minutes, and for the judges, we have 2 to 3 minutes for giving the judgment. So our next speaker is
Yeah. Yeah, please send your scores for the participant. These buttons we have shared with them through an email. So there is a score button. Click on it and then the tick, 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 send for the participant. Harrison.
Okay. So our next speaker is Mr. Milan Bonge, co-founder, SoC Microwave. Mr. Milan.
I think he mailed it to me, so I'm going to
Start 30 seconds.
Yeah.
While we put this on.
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. My name is Milan Moge, and I'm the co-founder of SoC Microwave, or Soft Microwave, the X2X revolution. What we basically do is we build the core hardware that defines the 5G satellite communication network. So, in short, we build the core phased array hardware, the chips and the boards and the antennas that go in small cells, in ground terminals, in mobile phones, in planes, in cars, everywhere.
Yeah.
Can you connect it?
Correct.
To that present?
Connect the mic.
Yeah.
Laptop.
Yeah.
On the stream.
Keep going. It's all good. Great,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, keep going. We'll learn more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, if it's going to take time, let's just, you can do
Do
it.
you want to
Do you do that next one while we
Oh, yeah,
load
you
it
can
up?
Is that okay?
Why
Yeah.
don't you proceed and the next one?
Okay. So our next presenter, in the meantime, he'll get ready for the presentation. So I'll call up the next presenter. It is Mr. Pavel Osokin from AMI.io. Mr. Pavel.
He was here. He was here.
Right. Okay. So the next is
Powell is. Powell?
Powell.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Handio. Yeah. Mr. Handio is from Larry.io. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. How's everybody doing?
Good. Thank you.
Right. All right. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Handoya. I'm actually the CEO and the CTO and the founder of Virt. And so by show of hands, right here, I'd like to start off by asking this question: is like, how many of you guys actually work on serverless or know about serverless? That's a good chunk of people right there. So for those of you who doesn't really know what serverless is, it's actually a new cloud computing or programming paradigm that the cloud user is no longer submitting a full chunk of their codes to the cloud on a static size servers, whereas they're actually right now they're actually submitting pieces of code and they're distributing it into the platform basically. And this piece of code actually scales up and down depending on the demand of the functions itself, and the way the user will pay for the serverless is by the time that it's spent inside the serverless. And this actually helps a lot of companies and a lot of organizations that runs application or services in the cloud to reduce the need of having a big operations team, as well as reducing their costs when to pay the time for the execution of the function. So because you only execute the time for the time that you execute the function, so what they call an on-demand pricing model. Okay? So serverless by itself is the fastest growing cloud computing segment at the moment, and it's been growing for 30% for year over year for the past 3 years, and it's also expected to reach about a $25 billion market in the next 2025. And of course, with the, as you can hear the panels speaking, with the rollout of 5Gs, with the rollout of IoTs, more IoT devices out there, the need for the things to be distributed is a lot more. So I can only foresee that the growth in the serverless space will be a lot more with the to keep up with the demand basically. So it's not moving. But of course, serverless is not without its own challenges, So for the first, one of the biggest deterrents for people that are actually adopting serverless is actually the lack of tooling and the lack of standardization across cloud vendors. So every serverless cloud platform currently out there have their own libraries, have their own signatures, have their own way of putting their code into their own platform. And once the user actually write in that mode, they're pretty much locked into the platform. They cannot, whereas where they want to actually move out from the platform, it will require them to actually have a expensive retooling, expensive rewriting of their code. So for Lyrt, we believe in all the serverless benefit, all the pay-per-use model, all the auto scaling, and all those things. It's all good. But we also believe that
we want to give the ability for the developer to give them options, you know. So especially when it comes to their own code, to give them option to actually execute anywhere. And with that, we believe that we're building the next generation of cloud computing platform using serverless. A cloud computing platform that is open, global, secured, and can run seamlessly from any cloud to cloud. And we do that by letting developers code once on any of the 6 programming language, major programming language, using our code template, which does not contain any cloud signatures. Okay? And the user will submit their code to us, and we will wrap it with different cloud vendors. And our machine learning and user policy will drive the deployment and execution of the function from one cloud to another, even on your own premise in your own data set. So we also let the developer use our platform to deploy their function using our function delivery network globally. We will distribute their code as close as possible to their end users, and which give them the best performance. It's similar how does a content delivery network works, but for serverless code. The user will get routed to the closest data center that is actually executing the code. We provide our user with a simple front end, command line interface, web interface, SDKs to manage all their functions deployment, policies, user access inside our platform. And we're planning to deploy this with a tiered pricing for different sets of users. For people who just want to try it out, we allow them to try it out without even having any credit card account. And for the pro tiers that wants like more advanced features, we charge them a nominal fee. And because actually we believe in the last section, you know, the enterprise. The enterprise is the one that drives this. Is the one that actually wants this kind of capability. Okay? So we're helping our enterprise customers to either start their serverless journey with us, or to help them with their serverless migration.
6 minutes.
Okay. So at the moment we have a working demo. We're actually having about 25 free users inside our platform, who gave us really good feedback, and we're starting to engage conversation with the enterprise customers, and we're currently fundraising for our initial seed round that will help us accelerate our growth. We're ready for our expansion. For accelerate our growth for expansion on Series A's, as well as the global growth within the 2 to 3 years. So we have a very strong technical founding team that is actually very enterprise infrastructure background, with a very strong enterprise infrastructure background. So I worked myself in cloud computing for 15 years of my whole career, basically, you know. And my co-founder Simon actually has been leading or building startups and sales operations for a company in Orange County, and for the past 10 years. And my advisor, one of them is over there, Jason and Ajay. Each of them actually have 20+ years experience of marketing or sales in enterprise software. So, and with that, I thank you for your time and for listening to my pitch, and welcome to question. By the way, there's a real demo. You can actually go in and check it out. Question?
That's great pitch.
Thank you.
So far.
Okay. All right. That's good. I guess. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So, Milan, are you ready?
Yeah.
Plug that HDMI.
let's start fresh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Milan Moge, and I'm the co-founder of Soft Microwave. We call it the X2X revolution. So how many of you have had the problem when you travel to a mountain range, when you go in rural areas, when you're just sitting in your living room and you have very, very poor internet connectivity? How many of you have had that? Possibly everyone. So why is this a big issue? Because everyone is focusing on 5G, 6G, and nobody is focusing on the core 2G, 3G, 4G network. There's a big gap in distributing the network all over the world versus densifying the network. People are deploying phased arrays, but phased arrays are expensive, using commercially off-the-shelf components. Very few people are using spectrum efficiently. The use of millimeter wave spectrum is not being used. So these are all the problems why we don't have good connectivity in terms of hardware. So what do? We build phased array systems for 5G SATCOM applications. Now what are phased arrays? Phased array, in layman terms, is a way to beam high energy RF energy at a particular direction. So if I have a phased array, I can direct energy to you simultaneously with one frequency and time resource. So I'm using frequency spectrum much more efficiently as compared to using different frequency and time for different locations. So it's spectral multiplexing. What are core technologies that we use in these phased arrays? We use carrier aggregation with wideband transceivers. We use conformal and optical beamforming. So it's like basically a cylinder with the the top portion having optical beamforming for satellite communication, and the surface of the cylinder for 5G. Then we use 3 to 5 technologies like silicon, gallium arsenide, gallium nitride. These are semiconductor technologies that enable 5G with extremely high power and low noise figure. And then we use full duplex with interference cancellation. So what full duplex means, you're using the same frequency and time resource for communication. What will be our initial product? Our initial product will be a wideband multi-beam heterogeneous wafer scale integrated system in package tile-based phased array. Now that's really complicated. Just in layman terms, it's a very advanced chip that will enable 5G and satellite communication. What are the bands we're going to use? We're going to use 24 to 30 gigahertz, 37 to 44, and then FCC has opened all spectrum, a lot of spectrum for unlicensed use up to 200 gigahertz. So a lot of that spectrum that's not being used can be used now with some of the chips that we're developing. Okay, so this is our team. I won't go in detail. So I'm the co-founder. I'm also the IC architect. Sanjay is the CEO, CTO. We have principal engineer. We have some antenna consultants and some optic consultants. We have a very diverse team who have a lot of experience in the industry. Most of our team has more than 20 years of experience in the industry. Leadership team is Sanjay has roughly like 40 years of experience in working in wireless companies like Northrop Grumman, defense contractors, Raytheon, etc. The market size. So SpaceX recently released their LEO constellation of satellites is going to be 40,000 satellites in the next 10 years. So there are basically a lot of satellites going to be deployed in low Earth orbit, and for each satellite, they say there are going to be 10, at least minimum 10 ground stations. So roughly of the order of 2 million ground terminal deployments in the next 5 years. 1 billion transceivers to support all these ground terminals and all these like satellites, ground terminals, mobile phones. So we're expecting a $1 billion market share of total addressable market in terms of chip deployments alone. And these are not even considering when we go to systems after scaling chips. So this is a picture of the overall market. There's a CubeSat in low Earth orbit deployed by SpaceX. What our chips will do is basically go into all phones, base stations, cars, railroad, cars, ships, airplanes, everywhere. Right now, very few chips are available in these markets. Our ongoing traction is with companies like Amazon, Samsung, Mixer. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. OneWeb is a $3 billion company funded by Google Ventures. They're really interested in our chips, given that they are developed and produced in large volume. Our future focus is companies like Google, SpaceX, Radwin, Boeing.
5 minutes.
This is an example of a chip that we did. It's basically a up-down converter. It basically modulates a signal and sends it at higher frequency and down converts it back. And everything was integrated on a single chip. And this is gallium arsenide technology. This is again a phase shifter, a transmit up-down converter, beamformer IC. So what a beamformer IC does is, at every element of an antenna, it sends a signal with different phases, and basically it constructively interferes radio waves to steer a beam in a different direction. So this is what the chip does. That's all I had. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. My question is just on competition. What are some other alternatives that are trying to approach the same problem, and how does your chip differ?
So again, we use, I shared the 4 technologies that we use. A lot of companies are focusing on silicon, but not all companies are focusing on the whole spectrum of technologies like silicon, gallium arsenide, and gallium nitride. For each part of the problem, you have certain aspect, like for silicon can be good for beamforming, it's low cost. For high power and low noise, you need gallium nitride. So we have the expertise in all the spectrum of technologies, so we can build the whole system from bottom up.
So does that allow you to make the chip faster, cheaper, or what's
better performance and extremely low cost?
Guys, following up on your question, do you have is there any IP protection that you have? What does it prevent from Intel and the player in the market literally creating this?
Yeah, so we're in the process of formulating an IP strategy of filing patents. So given that we're funded, then we'll formulate and start filing patents for protecting our IP.
I have a question. What is your background?
So I graduated in 2018 in India, in top school from India. It's called Indian Institute of Technology. And then I came here to work at a satellite communication company. I was working there for a while, and then I quit my job to start this company.
What made you
I was motivated always by Elon Musk to build a universe where life is sustainable, where we go beyond Earth and explore our horizons. And I always wanted to explore beyond and go outside of space. So that's what motivates me. I'm sorry? Yeah, so I'll go to that slide. So basically, we're trying to raise $3 million for developing all these chips. We're trying to raise $3 million for basically developing 24 to 70 gigahertz ICs. 3 silicon germanium masks will cost like $1 million. I can go through the details of everything later, but basically $3 million for seed round.
Prototype and versions of these ready?
Yeah. We have done other chips as service contracts, but our own chips, we haven't had the R&D budget for that.
Thank you.
Right. Please send scores for Milun as well as for other participants.
Yeah. So our next presenter is Pravin Osopin, co-founder and CEO MI.io. Pravin? Okay. So our next presenter is Mr. Basu Prasad Acharya, founder, Vocab Guru. Mr. Vishnu Prasad Acharya. Sorry, Vishnu. Okay. And I just put the fingers for the minutes. The time allocated is 5 minutes, so it will help us to wind up in time. So, yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Vishnu Acharya, and I'm the founder of Vocab Guru. So Vocab Guru is basically an edtech e-learning platform, so which provides learning English like in a much engaging and smarter like way. So the thing is that I know like it is United States, and I'm facing something like why people are like interested in learning English. Basically, this is targeting South Asian markets and especially the non-English speaking countries, where English has been like the learning English really helps in their professional as well as their like personal needs in order to like their career, everything. Like it has been a really like great importance, especially when it comes to a lot of tests like GRE, SAT, you can consider, and especially in India, I am targeting to begin with. So English has a like big importance in especially most of the entrance examinations or like the people preparing for that. So that is the concept, but the problem that is, I'll come to the problem statement. So the problem is there are a lot of platforms that provide the learning, but the thing is that they are not very well organized, and they don't understand what a student goes through, like how difficult the learning becomes, and the stress the students go through, especially during the competitive exams, because the competition is really huge. Huge, and there is a time constraint, and based on that, the students really couldn't figure out what can be a smarter way in order to like achieve the goals they want to achieve. So like these are the problems. There are lack of organized materials, and like most of the competitive exams like GRE, SAT also, you might be knowing in the US also. So they need a certain level of English and vocabulary, and the other like whatever the available things are there in the market, they might be either like high priced or they are like very old conventional ways. So user loses interest with those. So these are the problems we are focusing and try to figure out like something which will help the users like make the learning process more fun and engaging way, as well as at a very affordable cost. So how do we do that? So like for example, like as the name itself, Vocab Guru. So like we have we started with vocabulary initially, especially when I was preparing for GRE, and there was a lot of pain. Like I had to learn about 3,000 words like in a like period of like 2 to 3 months. Like that is like seems quite like impossible, but there are like over 100,000 or like people or candidates, or even like there are other exams. Over millions of candidates go through this kind of like stressful experiences. So I thought like mugging up, like that you can mug up words, but you'll remember for a week or 2 weeks or a month, but you are going to forget it. So in order to do something like special, so that people can learn it very quickly, as well as they will remember it and they will have a good retention. So what we do is like we have like for every word we have like images for the words. We have short video clips like very like 10 to 15 seconds, very relevant to that particular word. That can be either from a movie clip, that can be a very famous news clip, like Trump's saying a speech, something like that. Which should be very engaging, because like people learn with the visuals. The visual stays in your mind, you don't easily forget. But if you read something, you are most likely to forget it like over a matter of time. But when you see something, you remember that like over 100 times. And then like we have like other parts like grammar. We have like comprehensions. We have general knowledge and current affairs, what is going on. And because these are also different segments which target on like so many jobs and so many and competitive exams. And like we also have like the track progress. So like user can always see where they are standing, how much scores they have completed, and even there are like tests the user can go through, and they will the ranks of the students will be displayed at the end of the day. So it is like kind of if we have 100,000 users, where are the users standing among the others? If they are doing well, where are they? So they can have a fair idea. And the global market potential, so like as English, other than US, like most of the non-English speaking countries, especially there, that English it is a like official language of the globe. So it is like over 800 million, like that is the like targeted market. But so we are like focusing, like even if we are able to like target like 5% market fit, that should be like giving us like millions. So this is our progress so far. This is like we have already live version on Android, and we have over 20,000 mobile app users at the moment, and we are rated 4.4 on Google Play Store, as well as like we have a Facebook page with over 10,000 likes, and now we are like even like switching like to build in different platforms like iOS and web. But like since Android covers like 80% of the market, it seems, so that is why we have extended in Android at the moment. So these are some of the screens. You can see these are like the different courses, and these are the kind of like the words like you can see, and like for every word, as you can see, like there are images, and they can click on the words video. So then the video clips, and there are like trick sentences, and like synonyms, antonyms, and anything like related to like learning of English. So these are like some of the user testimonials, like on Play Store. You can even see on the Play Store if you search for the app. So the other features are like we have grammar, like so you can see like there are like different levels, like they have basic, intermediate, and advanced levels. So user can go through that, and even like we have this very famous blogs and articles, and in those some words you can see highlighted. So even a user wants to click on them, then they can go through the details, like which will be like representing the images and videos of the particular word. And always user can see where they are, like their progress by every different module. We have over 16 modules, like so that we are like a complete English and personality development. Like we want to take care of that segment. So like user can always see, and there are like a lot of tests. They can see see that they are like section wise, like how they are doing in each kind of sections in a different test, and they rank among others. These are some of the extensions, like you can see these are for like even if like people preparing for jobs, like there will be like HR interview questions, there are like group discussion, what are the hot topics in the market, and like for general knowledge, there are like different segments, and there are like test papers like as per the necessary exam. So this is like a kind of team. We have like I'm the founder, and I have a co-founder, and there are like some people who are working on the engineering aspects, like who are developing the app, and there are like people on sales, and we are still like trying to get more people on board. But the thing is that is why I'm pitching here, in order to raise funds so that I can accomplish the goals and towards like reaching out to more and more users. So these are like one of the like competitor analysis, like Magoosh, you might have heard, like this is a like big player in the, and they really charge like so much. Like I even paid, and like while I was preparing, even I paid like, so like they are like kind of charging like $100 per month, like whereas our model is like we'll be charging $5 a month, and with all these aspects, like whatever our features I told, like for $5, I mean like those kind of pricing is not available in the market. Like very few players are there like with such affordable price. And our future plans, of course, as the topic was 5G, unfortunately, until now I haven't expressed anything related to that. So we are going to implement AI and machine learning to create personalized learning plans. If the student is looking at certain aspects of the course, then we are going to identify using our machine learning and AI algorithm, and based on that, we are going to recommend the students where these are the areas you need to focus on, or you are good at these areas, like those sort of things. And then adaptive learning and test technique. So if the user is taking tests, so if the user is doing well in a test, then the next test will be harder. Or if the user is doing poor in a test, then we're going to give an easier test. So that it will be completely adaptive as per the user performance. And these are some of the voice recognition, just like.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
Not to be rude, just to be respectful of this time, we have to be out.
Okay,
So
sorry.
yeah.
This is almost last slide. So yeah, we can discuss that later. And the funds will be used, of course, a lot of marketing, team expansion, and app product development, and bringing on more features as per the competitive market. Yeah, that is it, and thank you very much. And whoever wants to speak, I can even show you the prototype. I have and if you have Android phone, you can always search for Vocab Guru, and you can sign up and see the features. Now it is completely free. We are bringing the subscription model near future, within 3-4 months. That is the plan as of now. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter, Mr. John, co-founder Web2Chefs.
He's going to do it remotely. Yeah. Can you connect you? What's your email? What's your email?
Virendra.yadav, VIREN, .YADAV, 1@gmail.com.
DRA.
VIRENDRA, VI.
Okay. So he has shared his Gmail account. In the meantime, please send scores for the participants.
Zoom?
Zoom? Yeah. No, not Zoom. I think Gmail. He has shared Gmail also. Go down. Yeah, up, at the very top. So, how you can Gmail ID? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Give me other video call, Zoom call.
Zoom, but except for my voice.
Yeah, that is Zoom. Okay. Let's not. If he's not. Who's the next?
How many do you have on the table?
One or two more.
Okay, but you have to be something on these guys 5 minutes. This guy's 4 hours. Look at the time, right? It's 8:40.
Yeah, hi.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear. Video is coming from here.
Hello?
Yeah, just a second. Yes. No.
Sure, no problem. Yep. Yep. Can you hear?
No, we are able to hear. We are trying to put you on the speaker in the room.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I think we can hear him. Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, just increase the volume.
Yes, I can hear.
Oh,
I can
okay.
hear.
Okay.
Volume.
But let's keep it here.
Increase the audio volume on the people.
Settings.
Settings.
Can you hear?
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yep, yep. Loud and clear. Yes.
Could you just do a quick recap around?
When we do the presentation later?
There is one more.
Let's do last one.
No, cannot.
Can you record it? Can you record it?
We're already recording. Yeah.
Can you record your picture and send it to us? Is that possible?
There is a mic issue here. The mic battery is over. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear. I can hear.
Okay, so we have issue with our mics.
Okay.
Batteries are misplaced. So I don't know. So judges are saying if you could send a recorded image of your that would
Yeah, I think that would be easier. So I don't have any pre-recorded out.
Can we move on? I don't know. But I'm very sorry. We need to make it before George. We'd love to hear a little bit more. Is it possible? Can you send it to us?
I mean, now, I mean,
No,
See, the crowd cannot hear you. The crowd cannot hear you. That's
actually
every presenter needs because you can do much.
I'm so sorry, we have to move on. So you can send.
Sure.
You need something.
So you can send your recording okay? All right. Okay, thank you. We have to move on. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry for that.
We used to I'm making those.
The vibe.
Sure. All right. So let's continue, Mr. Xiao. We got some technical issue. Yeah. Okay. So our next speaker is Mihai Mihai Butta, co-founder and CTO Mobiflex. Yeah. You're welcome. Yes, down.
One more after this. Theo. Is it here? No, he'll do live through video.
Why don't you record it? I haven't recorded it, so we'll review it and play it next time. That's possible. Yeah. We'll love to review it.
Or if you want, you can use this space to see the laptop.
Put the laptop here.
Whichever is comfortable for you.
Yeah, whatever it is easier for
So
everybody.
if you're more comfortable there, you can keep it over the Oh, you did it here. Oh, yes.
I am. But I started this trying
It's not connecting to the HDMI. This is this one. I stepped Hello everybody.
Hello.
My name is Mihai Butta and I'm the founder and the CTO of Mobiflex. Basically what we do, we take a serious look at x86 architecture, which is the foundation, hardware foundation of over 90% of whatever is called computing in the world. And the reason we take this look is because we see problems as we have continuous expansion of data generation. And Moore's law, if everybody knows what Moore's law is flattening. We approach the limits of physics. We cannot keep up with the data generation. Lots of data remains unprocessed, number one. Number two is that we try to put a lot of processing at the edge. Everybody talks about the edge. In artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything. But nobody looks at the cost of that edge computing, because what we have now at the edge is basically looking like this. We try to put a lot of load on personal cars, personal devices. It's gonna break, cannot work. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that all the services at home right now are one-to-one. Everybody is connecting some devices to some phone. And that does not allow the major function of edge computing, of IoT, which is interoperability, intercommunication. Before we can have a IoT, Internet of Things, we have to have a LAN of things, where all the currently disjoint and sub-networks in and around the house, which cannot talk to each other, we make them talk to each other. So these are basically the two fundamental problems that we address. And our solution is improved architecture. We make currently flat x86 architecture, which looks, let me show you another picture that you are gonna like, where x86 looks like a four-way stop intersection, one thing at a time. We're making a highway interchange with many concurrent I/O transactions simultaneously without any interference with each other and without any performance degradation. So that's it. Now, how we do that? We create this LAN of things coprocessors and chipsets. So basically we inject this intelligent I/O processor into x86 architecture. And the result is we more than 3x its performance for almost no cost increase. Number one. Number two, we eliminate any bottlenecks and limitation in I/O processing. We allow up to 16 concurrent I/O transactions, which 4 of which are high definition video, concurrently, no problem. We make any two devices connected, talk, communicate, regardless of their communication protocol, native communication protocol, and communication medium. So that's basically what we do. But that, yeah, let me show one more picture. So I/O is my specialty. I've done this for over 40 years for mainframes, for x86 systems. So this is a result. I've seen this long time ago. The problem was that Moore's law was compensating the deficiency x86 architecture had, has always had. Now cannot. Now it's a problem. Now it's time to solve it. And the solution is this SoC LAN of things, which whatever your need is, with some LAN of things on it, whatever you dream of, LAN of things can fit. Huge market, huge existing market, huge emerging market. Existing market is the PC. We make the PC a PDC. PDC stands for Personal Data Center. Anybody heard of Nutanix? Anybody heard of Sun Micro? See, so we do something like Nutanix, like Sun Micro, for 10, 20 users, for the price of the Mac computing, $1,500. We have over 4,000 companies begging for the prototype when will be available. We are asking for $1 million to build the first 50 systems. One more thing, our tier 1 customers are HP, Lenovo, Dell, stuff like that. We allow them to build systems that will 20x their profits compared with what they do in PC sales right now. Because right now they make less than Walmart. Walmart makes 3.12%, they make 2.8%. I'm done in 20 seconds. Apple from 7% market share makes more profits than HP, Dell, Lenovo, Asus, Acer combined. Huge carrot for customers. Question, please. Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Very powerful presentation. I love it. I'd like to ask you what you think.
Yeah, I can show you the team. So, one thing to understand is that except for the SoC, which is the base product, we will give it to system integrators, including us, to build systems. So this is the innovation per se. The rest are building blocks that are already on the market. We just arrange them to perform better functionality. Let me show you the team. Come on. So I'm in the team. We have Altiux. It's a 50+ people organization with very strong management that partner with us. They are present here, and they have big team in India to do. I had the architecture part. They will do the firmware from the driver up to middleware. Then we have Richard, who is a guru in IoT. He is with Sixfox, the French company, something like that. So he will do our market development. And then we have Alex, another. He is in top 500 mathematicians in the world, who's specializing in databases and analytics and BI. And we will combine his knowledge with our hardware to do something unique. And then we have a small team forming in Bangalore for hardware. Bangalore is a very strong hub for hardware. So we are building that hardware group there. And these are open positions that hopefully will get them somewhere.
Who's jockeying on this?
Again,
Who's the CEO on this?
we need one.
Okay.
But for now, I led companies up to 20, 40, 50 people. It's not a problem. But we do need someone. If you look on my LinkedIn profile, it's help wanted type of CEO is listed there.
Actually, just sorry, one quick question. Just the state of your product. Can you talk a little bit about just how much you tested it, what's the performance, and then
We are doing in Bangalore a second try of building the proof of concept product. We are between the hard and the rock and the hard place. We need investors ask for a prototype for demo. We need money to build a prototype. So we are looking at both the solutions, physical prototype and simulation prototype. I just talked with some people who specialize in simulation modeling, so maybe we can do that instead.
Right, thank you.
So yeah, with this we are done, and please send scores for Mihai. Mihai.
And the answer comes me too.
Yeah. Please send scores, and we'll be ranking all the participants in a moment once you are done with the scores. And then winners will be announced, and whatever offers are there.
I put some effective summaries here for people. Thank you for squeezing me in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where to send the scores again?
That form.
In that form?
If you have not registered, then you cannot send.
I see. So that's the link you send through email, right?
Yeah.
Upon registration, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I see.
If you register, then you can do it.
I see.
Well, he doesn't have the opportunity to explore the difficulty. So instead of yeah, yeah. The guy has a history. So, like, yeah, they were all, this was a software engineering program. And so I had my entire software he jumped in from China. So, yeah, and he was the most technical from get down to network infrastructure. And so he was asking questions. And he asked for so the question okay, I propose that, they all said, that's a really no. And so we said, let's do a test. Because I propose that we got some variables. And we're coming at it from all angles, with all kinds of problems and all different areas. Okay, what we're doing is very complex, and we follow across all the different levels of software, whether it's from embedded systems or the cloud. And because we're looking for people who know this collection of stacks. And so, so the team is coming up with a proposed problem for this. And to let him go after showing us what's on his own. Okay, it's a problem that we already have a solution for. But in this particular case, translation is plus. Which is something we want to do, and John's busy doing other stuff. And so if I show him, then he shows his value. We gotta get it. Yes, I know. But I question my team to not just walk them out of development, but to give them the opportunity to get non-technical response. Sales. Sales. We've got to have budget. Yeah, you should have heard me 4 years ago. Yeah, so Shelby's son is a senior software architect.
Result is out.
So results
are out.
What do we got? Harrison Rose.
Hello.
Congratulations. I actually really like your presentation, by the way.
Oh, very good.
I want to sit down with you at our office next week.
Okay.
We'll have to schedule some time with you.
That'd be perfect.
We have Vishnu Priscilla Acharya. And where'd he go?
There you are.
Good evening. Thank you. We'd love to sit down with you next week at our office. You'll learn more about it. Robotics in our alley. I think this is something infrastructure-wise definitely to look into. And this new. And we would love to connect. This is not our really, we don't actually invest in the language app. We have some features that it's not direct investment, but I think there's a value for us, especially in this best practice. And fun fact, you mentioned but we've done the founder. So you can be very well with them. So if you want to mentor in that way, I can connect you. So thank you so much, everybody coming.
But by the way, all the other presenters that did a
fantastic job, by the way.
Easy. It's coming from the founder and entrepreneurship background, I can tell you, it's a lot harder when you are on this side. And thank you so much for your time and energy to put it in today's presentation. So we wish you all the best. And please reach out to us.
If you have any questions or learn more,
we would love to help you in whatever way is possible through our own ecosystem or the known network or connections that we have. We would love to do that. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So when
Oh, they
Thanks, I'll make a move.
Okay, thank you so much.
You can keep notifying for the next one. Or you can catch up.
Okay, yeah, I will update.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi.
Could you add my name to the network too?
Network?
I want, so you email list
Yeah.
for the next, meeting.
Yeah, sure. If you there is a Google form I share with everyone.
Okay, how do I do? You can send me, okay. So I don't even have
Have
to.
you seen this?
No, I probably not. Maybe I can take a picture or. So what is the link?
This is the link. This is the link.
Oh.
Register here.
So okay. So what's the name here?
If you take a picture and search for it, you'll get
yeah,
Google.
okay,
Just Google
yeah.
it, you'll get it.
Yeah.
Just take a picture.
Okay.
Search for this and you will get it.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's all.
So what is the next meeting? Network events?
Next month.
Yeah, when?
And we're following
Date we haven't decided, but it'll be soon.
Okay.
So if you join that group, you will get it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Well, she was a software engineer for probably 20 years before she stopped programming and got involved in the governments of China and bringing them over for setting up conferences and meetings. she brings over Chinese investors and governments. She was the CEO of the G50 Global Smart City Summit.